very good morning, my dear Silent Rose family. Today I wanted to talk to you about nothingness. The other day, I was reading the book of Ruth. Many of you know how the story goes, but for those of you all who don't, here's a quick recap. There was once a man named Elimelech from Bethlehem of Judah, and his wife was a woman named Naomi, and they had two sons, Malon and Kilian. Now, because of a famine at that time, this family decided to leave Bethlehem and relocate to a place in the plateau of Moab. The two sons got married to two Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. And as the story goes, Naomi lost her husband, and 10 years later, her two sons died as well. Now, this family was left all on their own with no men to protect them, just the women. Soon as they hear that the famine had ended back in Judah, Naomi decides to leave her residence in the plateau of Moab. And before doing so, she convinces her daughter-in-laws to go back to their people, to their families. One of them, Orpah, kisses Naomi goodbye and she leaves. But Ruth was determined to stay with her mother-in-law. Despite Naomi's efforts to convince her, Ruth was very stubborn in her decision that she would go where Naomi goes. And so, Ruth and Naomi together head back to Bethlehem in Judah. On their arrival, the whole town was excited to see them. But Naomi was feeling quite the opposite. She felt empty and desolate. She felt like she had nothing else to look forward to after the death of her loved ones. While the people rejoiced around her, she felt sad because she thought that she was being punished by God. She says, "At the time of the famine, when I left, I went away full, but now the Lord has brought me back empty." Many a times, dear friends, we experience these kind of crossroads in our lives too. We feel like everything is falling apart and we see uncertainty, and most times things get so troubling we don't see a way forward and we end up feeling like God has abandoned us. But most times, dear friends, the silence of God in these moments is God's way of preparing you for an important mission. Most times, your actions and words in these moments, in God's silence, really defines and dictates the character that He is building in you. The big question God asks you in that moment is, are you going to fight or are you going to run away? If you choose to stand and fight, God has promised that that is one battle that you will definitely not be fighting on your own. And in Naomi's case too, it was like that. She was gifted the companionship of her daughter-in-law, Ruth. And as the story goes, Naomi was an integral part in bringing Ruth to her future husband Boaz. And if we fast forward and read the genealogy of Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, we see that this encounter between Ruth and Boaz, which was facilitated by Naomi through the grace of God, was such an integral part in that genealogy, which eventually led to the birth of Jesus. Dear friends, the most important thing to note, God does miracles from nothingness. If we look into the journey of the Israelites with Moses in the book of Exodus, They were wandering through a desert. A desert is known to be a place where there is just dry and arid weather. You do not see a live source of water or food over there. These people traveled through this desert for 40 years. But so many times we see God provide for them from nothingness. It was from nothingness that God gave them water. It was from nothingness that God gave them manna to eat. Where it seems like there's no way forward, God always makes a way for those who trust Him and faithfully walk with Him. God bless you all, dear friends. Have a wonderful day.